We're going to have a former guest on the show today by the name of Alice Vaughn, the creator of Offensive Crayons and the host, or one of the lovely hosts, of the Two Girls, One Mic podcast, coming up today on the Unframe of Mine show.
You're listening to the Unframe of Mine show, the place to have the most mind-stretching, unprotected, intellectual intercourse of your life. Your hosts battle the forces of evil by lobbing fiery balls of truth, reason, and evidence over safe room walls.
Welcome to the show, Alice.
Hey, welcome back.
Hey guys, glad to be back.
All right. Just wanted to have you back on. We really enjoyed our chat last time, and we wanted to catch up with you and see what's been going on in your world, and I'm really excited. I guess we could start right off the bat with the new crayon coloring book that you came out with. I want to hear a little bit about that because that's really cool.
Well, I'm glad you guys mentioned. It's a little coloring book called Happy Little Dictators. So I thought to myself, with making these crayons, you kind of need to pair it with something. And going through the coloring book section in Barnes & Noble's, the options suck.
Just putting it mildly, I guess.
Yeah, it seems like an obvious decision to move. You know, you already created these offensive crayons. Might as well have offensive crayon coloring books as well.
Got to have something to go with it, to complement it, so to speak.
Exactly. And I thought to myself, all right, what would work really well with offensive crayons? And then I thought to myself, well, what if I did something with dictators? And I love political satire. And then I thought to myself, well, who doesn't want to see Mussolini slurping on spaghetti or Hitler coloring like Bob Ross?
Wow. That is awesome.
By the way, this book is filled with Easter eggs. So if you're a history buff, you'll see little things in the background or references to different events. So you'll have like a Maduro who's playing with a drone and getting election votes basically droned away. You'll see Kim Jong-un in a little mall rocket ship.
It's adorable. I want to color that.
Now it's just, do you have a way to pair up the colors with the actual pages?
No, I don't.
No.
At this point, I just want to leave that to everyone's imagination.
Right.
Hopefully, to also buy my products and use them. But whatever floats your boat. Assad gassing his citizens with farts.
Of course.
Wow.
I wouldn't expect anything less from you.
That would be Travel Ban Brown.
Well, I've got another product idea for you.
Shoot.
How about it's a children's? It's supposed to be targeted toward children. It's Mother's freshly painted living room wall, the offensive freshly painted living room wall. Can you sell that on Amazon?
You mean just children scribbling on parents' walls?
Yeah,
it's free.
Yeah. You just sell them the wall, make it offensive.
Oh, I thought you meant sell them the child.
I would buy the child if it was on Amazon at a good price, though. It has to be a reasonable price.
Yeah, I mean, you could normally get those really cheap in Asia, specifically Taiwan.
Taiwan.
I'm not much into the Taiwanese children. It's not my thing.
No.
Yeah.
This conversation is getting a little awkward for me.
Yeah, back when I was hanging out with Epstein on his island back in the day. Okay, I'm done. I should probably edit that part out.
No, you got to keep it, man.
Good Lord. So did you do the illustrations for that book, or was it you paid somebody else to do it, or how was that process? Because I'm really curious about.
Yeah, so I came up with all the concepts. I hired an amazing illustrator because I can't draw for shit, and it would take me too long to learn. So I hired someone who got my vision from the get-go, and we worked together so well on this for the last few months. There's over 30 pages of 30 different dictators. It is a great holiday gift. By the way, I only came out with 5,000 units for the holidays, and that's it. I'm going through the normal quote channels of getting them produced, but unfortunately to do that, it takes a lot longer, to get the whole publishing and stocking in stores and manufacturing done. So realistically, if I went through that process, they wouldn't be out until maybe the summer of next year. So that's why I decided, all right, let me do a limited run. Whoever wants them can get them, and we could start getting these fulfilled.
Right on. This is smart.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
let me ask you, the last time we had you on, you had some issues with Amazon selling your crayons. And you still do. Okay. So also not only that, but you also dropped the new series of crayons, the red, white, and fuck you political edition. So how are those have been selling for you with the upcoming election season?
So been having a great response with the Red, White, and Fuck You edition. We also have the holiday version for the holiday season, and of course the original pack. The last time I was banned from Amazon was because, as we discussed, so they pulled my product down for review, and after several weeks they concluded that I was offending children and Caucasians. Yep. Now, obviously, in their defense, Caucasians are the most sensitive of groups, so I get it.
Especially on the behalf of other races.
Right.
Oh, yeah. All the time. So for all the Karens of the world, I understand.
I feel so offended for you right now.
So I read something recently where there was a glitch on your page as far as selling some crayons. Wait, Is that true?
There was a glitch?
A glitch?
I thought there was somebody that bought a bulk of crayons.
Oh, okay. So that wasn't really a glitch.
That wasn't really a glitch. Okay.
So what this woman actually did was she basically, so at the time I was doing some testing for doing a wholesale page specifically for my wholesaler. So that way, instead of just talking to me, they could just, fill out a quick form and buy whatever they want in large quantities.
Okay.
And one of the things I sell to my wholesalers is a master case, which has over 112 units of crayons. By the way, these master cases are not seen in any collection online. Like, you can't even access them if you wanted to. So somehow what she basically did was somehow pulled the code up of the products that of basically the back end of Shopify, and somehow was able to stumble enough times. Like, it probably took her a little while to figure this out, or maybe she's done this before. Because the thing is, with other stores, if there's something unavailable, but people used to sell it, they would still have to fulfill it. Mm-hmm. This product was never available. I just put it up as like a dummy test product because I wanted to start creating the back end for my wholesalers. So she finds this product, somehow puts it in her cart. Again, a product that's nowhere on my site. And she's like, well, I bought a master case of crayons for $12. You now have to ship it to me, to Canada. So I told her, I was like, look, I could ship the rest of the stuff, in your order. I could refund you for this specific thing because it's not an available product for purchase. But, I have to do that. And she's like, no, I demand it. I think she put like 3 of them in her cart. So in total, she was asking me to ship her over like, at the time, I think I calculated like $8,000 worth of product for $40.
Oh my God.
Wow.
It makes you, because that sounds like a lot of work for somebody to go in the back end and try to hunt these things out. I wonder how many times she's done this and it's actually worked. And then she turns around and probably resells the products, for a hugely discounted rate, almost like a merchandise version of a ticket scalper is what it sounds like. That's incredible.
Oh, and the kicker was her name was literally Karen, and she actually asked to speak to my manager. I can't make that up.
Okay, well, that just that's interesting. That's fun.
I don't even know what to say about that. That's incredible.
It's like you can't write that any better.
And you had to turn the poor lady down, and you had to inform her that, well, I'm the manager. it's me. I'm her. Of course, the way I operate, I would have pretended to go get my manager, and I'd come on with someone come out other accent or something like that, and I say, "Listen, laddie, I'm the manager around here, and I don't go kindly to people trying to rip me off." And I'd start doing some weird shit like that, just to have some fun.
I just really did start messing with her, but she started getting really weird and angry. And at one point, she just got to a point where it was just nonsensical to keep replying to her, where it kind of outlived its comical usefulness.
I can understand that. Yeah, there's only so many screenshots you can take and publicly humiliate people with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had just seen that. I think it was Twitter. You made a post about that a while back, so I was wanting to ask you about what had happened. So. But that's definitely interesting.
What a cool story.
So since then, how's the porn cast going for you? What's been going on with that?
Oh, it's been great. So for those of you guys who have never heard of my show, Two Girls, One Mic, the Porncast, what we do is we review the holes and the plot holes of your favorite porn. And since you guys last had me on, so we have definitely been reviewing a ton of porn. We've also talked to a ton of different industry professionals. So for example, we've had people on who run a porno boot camp. We've had people like masturbation specialists on, because there are masturbation coaches / specialists.
Let me ask you, how does that work? I'm a little curious. A specialist for masturbation, is that both men and women, or is it specifically to one gender?
So I'll tell you right now, unlike a regular coach, they're not waiting for you on the sidelines cheering you on with Gatorade. My mistake.
Wait, what? I want my money back.
I can see it. I'm over here spanking it, and then you got two people sitting on the side of your bed, and they're just here to hand you out a glass of Gatorade.
I want my money back. This is bullshit.
Oh, that's great.
They keep telling you to stay hydrated. Words of encouragement.
You got a little fan fanning you. Keep you cool. Keep you going.
You've only been going for 3 minutes, you pussy. Get it together, man.
But what they are is really somatic sex coaches. Specifically, they mostly gear towards women, because apparently women are just shitty when it comes to sometimes reaching orgasm. And especially over time, as you age and have family and children and stress and work, you kind of give up. So on a serious note, they actually do help, people kind of get back in touch with themselves, in the most literal of sense, I guess. But we also have had some fantastic guests on. Like, we just had John Fugelsang on to review a Star Wars porn, which was essentially a shot-by-shot recreation of Episode 4, and way better than the
Holy
prequels.
Crap. That's insane.
I may have to watch that.
No. I've heard you guys discussing some of these things, and it's like, holy crap, the amount of work these people put into their films is incredible. Because you're not only creating the original story, but you're taking the original story, making a sexual parody of it, and then putting in your own little details, little callback humors and whatnot in there. It's like that takes some skill. It's just not.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, we were watching the Star Wars porn, and we kept wondering and looking at each other of when are they going to get to the next sex scene? There were so many times where they filmed unnecessary scenes just because they wanted to stick to the original. It was incredible. Just to give you guys an idea, normally within, let's say, 90 minutes to 2 hours of porn, you'll get like 80% porn and the rest maybe like 15, 20 minutes of actual plot. This was well over an hour 15 of plot.
Oh, wow.
So
they actually legit made this a movie then.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of cool. It's different.
They just don't get the recognition they deserve, I think. so much societal pressure to keep this stuff in the underground, I guess. But it's a huge booming industry. It's like an industry that everybody partakes in, but nobody accepts it and talks about it.
So I do have to ask you a question. I meant to ask you the last time you were on here. So when it comes to talking about porn and things that you're involved in with that, how has that worked in your relationship? Has that been do you kind of put things on a pedestal, or because you talk about it so much, you're just not as interested in being intimate with someone? Has that been different for you if you are in a relationship? And if you're not, do you just prefer to be single because of what you do? I've always kind of wondered about that.
So I've been in a relationship for the last several years with my domestic partner. My co-host Yvette, my main one, she actually is also married. And really, we have one key rule, which is our spouses didn't choose to be involved in the porncast. So whatever's, between us and the bedroom, we keep behind, we keep the veil and the curtain over that. But everything else is pretty much fair game. I never talk about specifically what he and I do or don't do. At the end of the day, I don't mind talking about, what I'm into, how I feel about certain topics and discussing a number of things. But we still want that element of privacy there.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just kind of wondering about that because you know how sometimes that kind of interjects itself into what you do. And so I just kind of wondered how that's been for you from the private scene of things to, the public eye of what you guys discuss. So that is interesting. They've
both been super supportive, really. What's been great is I want to say that the Porncast has really just helped our relationships. I mean, number one, the amount of sex toys we get sent to us.
Hey, honey, let's try this one
This is a
tonight.
hell of a perk. Yeah, listen, it's for business. This is not for play. This is for business strictly. I need to test this device.
I got to do a test run. Come on, let's go.
Dude, to come home and then see, oh, wait, I have a box waiting for me. I didn't order any of this stuff. It's 6 different toys. Honey, Christmas is early.
I got to wonder, at some point, do you look at certain toys and be like, what the fuck does this do?
Oh, yeah.
But there you go.
Yes.
You seem to have had a very specific one in mind when he asked that. What came to mind?
I got to know this one.
Oh, no, it's not anything crazy. It was just a toy from the company Plus One where it was like essentially a cock ring at the bottom, but it kind of looked like a weird blue blob with like a tickler on it. And we weren't completely certain how to use it initially. And then we had to read the instructions. So,
yeah.
But there are plenty of times where
does
like,
this side go towards you or does this side go towards me? Maybe we got it upside down. Maybe it goes on your tongue.
Does it go on your tongue? Like a stingray.
It looks like a stingray. So now with doing the Porncast, Daniel and I have recently launched a channel on Pornhub. Obviously, we don't have the topics, and we don't do the stuff that you guys do.
Oh yeah, it comes up all the time. Like we're sitting there talking in normal conversation, and since we kind of position ourselves as highbrow ideas in lowbrow packaging, a lot of our jokes tend to be dirty, guttural jokes like that. And it's like, well, let's just take those pieces and just make them little clips on Pornhub because we keep saying, oh, well, you can see that later on Pornhub. So that's kind of how that.
And now people have been asking us. People have been asking us. I can't find you on Pornhub. So Daniel went off.
Yeah. We kept making the
created
jokes.
A channel, but have you guys decided to go that route to join Pornhub? Obviously, I see the sweater, which I absolutely love. So I'm assuming that maybe you guys have.
So we recently started uploading our episodes onto Pornhub. I mean, the way I see it is it's just another place for people to download and listen to our content.
Right.
And within having it up for 2 days, we already have a couple thousand downloads, which is great.
Nice.
So I mean, it's just like YouTube or Podbean or Libsyn or Pandora or Spotify or wherever else people are listening to content. People are listening and searching for this content too there. So cross our fingers that our model application form is accepted, because then we can actually say we are working entertainment on Pornhub.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what's really funny is so she and I, my co-host and I, have been to a couple porn events, and we do dress up nicely. So we have been mistaken for talent, which is wonderful. But my favorite is last year. So you guys notice I'm wearing a Pornhub sweater.
Yes.
And I bought this sweater last year. And you guys can easily, if you type in Pornhub sweater, if you go to the Google image search, one of the things you'll see is myself. So wearing this specific sweater in my old apartment. And what happened, and this is just such a funny story. So I took a photo of this sweater and I posted it on Reddit. Within an hour, I think it got like 20,000 upvotes, and then it was taken down.
Oh, wow.
So they took it down off our funny for pornography.
Really?
I guess apparently just talking about porn is considered porn. Now, I don't know.
That's interesting.
But
I kind of like this. I like the sweater because I just feel like I just need to wear that at a family, like even at a company, Christmas party, just to kind of get that general sense of what the reaction would be like from coworkers. That would be great. Of course, you'd be the talk of the office, come the next week. But yeah, no, that's just something I would definitely wear to a family function too.
No doubt.
So
no doubt.
Can you imagine trying to open Christmas presents on Christmas morning and your kids come running downstairs? Mommy's got a Pornhub shirt on. What does that mean?
Yeah, Mommy, what's Pornhub? Is that like the little? Boy, that was a. Never mind. Fuck it. We're editing that out. Jesus. In my mind, that joke went so much smoother.
So the best part though was things I noticed happened right after that, after it went viral and then it was immediately taken down. The next day, I started seeing the image being shared all over Facebook. And because Facebook has this part of their algorithm where it tags you based on facial image recognition, I woke up and I'm like, why am I being tagged in hundreds of photos? Apparently Facebook does that. It's very creepy. Never go viral.
Don't do that.
Oh, good Lord.
Especially if you appreciate your anonymity.
Yeah.
So the second thing that happened, though, and this is the kicker. So my photo went viral and was taken and put as a full thread on the Donald, and it's a whole sub-community on Reddit. And what they did was, because my hand was closer to the mirror when taking the photo, apparently they thought that I was a man. So they were arguing whether or not I was a trap.
Oh, yeah. I do remember seeing that. Let me see those hands now. I'll be the judge of that right now.
They're fairly dainty, but I mean...
They're dainty-ish. They're kind of like ambiguous hands. You have very ambiguous hands. You could go either way. It's cool.
Well, you got to think that's a lot of work, stroking those dildos and everything else and having that lube on your hands.
You probably got working man's hands, don't you?
Yeah. Little calluses on them,
from playing guitar and
yeah.
I guess. Just all the lube. You know what? Who needs moisturizer? Just use lube.
There you go.
That's true.
Speaking of which, actually, the most common, fake cum on set. Fun fact, Cetaphil, the moisturizer.
Really?
Go on.
You know when you guys see those ads of women just soaking in cum?
Yes. No.
Okay, that's not cum.
I don't know
what
such thing.
Well,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I plead the fifth. Plead the fifth on this one.
Please do explain. I have no clue.
Paint us a picture.
So,
no pun intended.
A pasty picture.
Color this one. Color this one in for me, would you, Alice?
Next coloring book.
So if you've ever been on any of those porn sites, any of them, literally any of them, and you've seen a woman who is an actress who's completely drenched and she's still in makeup but has it all over herself, yeah, that's just Cetaphil, the moisturizer. They basically throw that on and then clean it off, and then they get to shooting. But they do that for the stills.
Wow.
Cetaphil lotion.
We got to look this one up.
So yeah, Cetaphil lotion. It's moisturizing. Oh, Cetaphil, C-E-T.
Yeah.
I was misspelling it. Oh yeah, I've seen that in Walmart. There's
exactly
allegedly. Wait,
go to Walmart and create your own porn scene.
So are you saying it's actually like the lotion is actually cum that they bottle for you to use as moisturizer? Or are you saying that it's not actually cum at all?
It's not actually cum at all in those still photos. It's just the moisturizer. And also sometimes when they need to make the load look bigger, after, let's say, a cream pie scene, they'll throw in some Cetaphil. You're welcome.
Wow.
It's going to ruin it for me. Damn it.
Well, next time we see how, go on Pornhall and see a scene like this, I can think about Alice and just what she told us. And then it kind of ruins the whole thing for me.
I'm going to look right at it. And all I'm going to think is, man, her face must be so soft.
Right?
Moisturize.
Like, it's like a positive to working in the industry.
Now, have you had a chance to listen to our newest Christmas song we just put out?
We don't need health insurance. Just to take this benefit, this little perk that goes with it. You get soft face.
But have you had a chance to hear our new Christmas song, Moist Christmas?
I haven't.
Oh my gosh!
I'll have to send that to you. Yeah. We came up with Moist Christmas rather than White Christmas, and it was just something we were kind of playing back and forth. I meant to send that to you. I'll have to get it your way and see what you think. But you have any other questions, Daniel? Or?
Oh no! Pardon. By the way, if you do listen to that, pardon the couple bum notes there. It was done in about an afternoon, but it's funny anyway. Sorry. Yeah, I got another question for you. There was let me find the question. Oh yeah. So we were doing an episode recently where PayPal actually pulled support from Pornhub. And I'm sure you're very familiar with this, and I'm sure it's affected a number of the people that you're in contact with. And that kind of thing. And I was just wondering if you could give us a little more detail on that and how it's affecting the people that it involves. If kind of what stories have you heard so far, or how people are moving in another direction, or how they're solving that problem? Because they're going to solve the problem somehow. It's just a matter of what are they doing to get around that.
So frankly, I was surprised that PayPal for the longest time was a payment processor for Pornhub, because they have been very staunchly anti-porn in the past. So just to give you an idea, to the extent where you'll have performers who sell maybe past clothing that they've used on sets or lingerie that they're no longer using, they'll sell some of that stuff on, let's say, eBay, because they want to make an extra buck or two, because by the way, for those of you who don't know how the porn industry works, performers nowadays, they have to constantly be marketing themselves. You only make so much money off doing a scene or two, and you have to find other ways to make revenue. So when it comes to doing dancing, when it comes to doing modeling, when it comes to selling clothing, feet pics, selling clips, things like that. So pay for your porn. They're actually creatives and artists. They're just hustling like anyone else. So the problem is, let's say I am a porn performer and I'm selling my stuff on, let's say, eBay. Well, eBay forces you to use PayPal. I've had a number of friends who say, well, I've used to sell my stuff on eBay, and then what happened was they found out I do porn. I didn't say that any of my stuff was, they're selling clothing, but because it's specifically associated with porn, their accounts will be locked and they won't be able to even access funds within those accounts, which is troubling. Some of them have been lucky to be able to, let's say, refund the purchase and then have the buyer directly send them the funds through a different means. But then they can't use that channel altogether, such as like an eBay, because you're forced to use PayPal. So that's one problem.
Sorry to interrupt, but so not only are they getting shut down and denied access to the platform because of their association within the porn industry, but they're also being locked out of the funds that they already have in the account as well.
Yeah.
Boy,
Wow.
that seems somewhere in the realm of illegal.
Yeah, pretty shady.
That can't be legal, because if I'm going to terminate a contract with you, you would think I'd still be obligated to fulfill my previous contract with you, up until that point. It just seems wrong on so many levels.
No, it does. It really does.
PayPal has been doing this for a number of years, screwing over small business owners. Frankly, the fact that they're still doing it to the porn community is nothing new. The challenge is, though, that now that PayPal's cut off, people always say, well, what other payment processors can they use? They can surely go somewhere else. Well, the problem is a lot of payment processors and banks don't like working with porn stars or porn. People don't realize, for example, Visa is actually the biggest censor of pornography and one of the biggest enforcers of obscenity laws in the United States.
Yeah, yeah, I have heard that, and I think I learned it on your show, so that's probably where I have heard that. But
well, what was the crypto?
Yeah, I was gonna get to that. I was wanting to see what kind of solutions that people are coming up with, because unbeknownst to me, you just revealed that it's not really a new issue, that it's kind of something that's already been expected. So I'm assuming some potential solutions have already been, like, what are people doing to get around it? Is
there are some new payment processors that are coming out, so people are trying to get creative, but it's always a challenge, and this is. The problem is that people try migrating towards those new platforms, but then new laws start coming into place. So, for example, people try migrating towards Bitcoin, but back in, I want to say, late 2017, if I'm not incorrect, I know that the U.S. Congress signed into effect some new laws which affected moving forward from, I believe, 2018 on how cryptocurrency was going to be specifically taxed at a much higher rate per transaction. I think it was in the realms of 20-30%, which makes it utterly useless to use. So, there's only so much we could really do. The biggest thing that we have to really do as a society is say, well, these are actually workers and it should be fined. And we shouldn't be stigmatizing those who are actually trying to make a living day to day. So, the short-term solution is for people to keep platform hopping, which sucks. Because of that, that's how new technology is also the flip side is that's how a lot of these new companies are going to see a little bit of headway and traction, is working with the porn industry. Yeah, like spankchain.com.
You weren't supposed to say that yet.
Oh, sorry. Cut that. Do you want to cut that out?
Edit. Retake. Thank you.
I was just trying to get prepared ahead of time.
Shit. So that's how a lot of these different companies are going to make headway, is by, working with these new technologies and working with the porn industry. But really the long-term solution is for us to, as a society, implement laws so that way people aren't penalized for doing sex work and, not having access to their bank accounts or not being able to access funds that should be readily available to them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that. As long as I'm always of the belief that if there's no victim, then let people do what people do. There's no reason we need to go in there and try to pretend like we're being all morally righteous. Especially when we're doing something that everybody does. At some level or another. I did want to ask you though, because one thing that popped into my mind when I heard that read that article about PayPal pulling out is that stop. I don't.
That gets me every time.
Like how I just kind of slipped that one in there, huh?
Uh-huh. That's what she said.
Or two or three.
There you go.
Two or three. So, yeah, when I heard that, the first thought that came to mind was a cryptocurrency-based thing called SpankChain that I had heard about quite some time ago. I'm assuming you'd heard of that as well. Do you know of anybody that's using that right now, or at least trying to use that? There seems to be a number of reasons why that would be beneficial, because there is the certain level of anonymity for the people that are actually participating in purchasing porn or paying the cam girls and that kind of thing. But what have you heard about that as far as a potential solution?
I mean, they're one of many options. I haven't used them myself to try them out. I haven't really gone into the company and looked into them that much. But I mean, so far I haven't heard anything bad. I'll let you guys know if that changes. So yeah, I mean, a huge challenge is that you have people on the left and right who are very anti-pornography, but for very different reasons. So what you have, for example, I mean, aside from you have a lot of people who are, morally religious on the right, you'll have organizations like in 2015, I know like Morality in Media, they changed their name to the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. And consider that language. I mean, isn't that brilliant remarketing? Who doesn't want to be against sexual exploitation, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm totally against that. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but when you go on their site, you'll see that they're promoting things like pornography as a public health hazard, which they've been pushing hard in a number of states.
Wait, public health hazard? What kind of arguments are they making for that?
Religious ones.
Oh, religiously publicly hazardous.
That's been an ongoing battle between religious groups and the porn industry as far back as it can go.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I mean, this is nothing that's out of the normal.
Exactly. But then what people don't realize is they'll see, people on the left, what they think are doing good work, because a lot of people on the left will often conflate porn with sexual exploitation, in a sense that they'll conflate it with trafficking really frequently. So we've seen this multiple times before, everywhere from historically, I don't know do you guys remember Backpage.com?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Did you guys ever read about what actually ended up happening?
As far as the website's concerned?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think I heard you guys talk about it on your show, but if you go ahead and just tell us a little bit of what happened there.
Yeah, so for your listeners who aren't familiar with Backpage.com, essentially it was a site really similar to that of like a Craigslist, except it was specifically for getting sexual services. Now, sexual services, not necessarily.
Yeah.
See, that's what they tried nailing them on, but there's so much that's between prostitution and just regular hand holding. So everything from feet pics to selling underwear to
Cuddling,
hand jobs. Let's see. There's phone sex, camming.
Can I get like a foot? No, get like a cuddling hand job where you embrace my feet with your feet. Is that a thing? Can we do that? Is that a thing I could have potentially asked for on Backpage?
Yeah, actually, I take back on the hand jobs. I think there's maybe massage-like services. So that would massages would be fine. I don't think hand jobs would be. But
Oh, so basically, it was like
You
the
gotta
language.
visit your local Asian massage
Yeah,
parlor.
so the language basically was basically up to the line, but maybe not crossing it, where they could get you on prostitution explicitly.
yes and no. So here's a couple things that happened. So for example, like they tried accusing Backpage.com of doing things like child trafficking, but Backpage.com historically since 2004, there's memos that came out that showed that if anything, whenever they noticed and found someone where they said, "Whoa, this person's underage," they pulled the plug on them. They not only did that, but they went out of their way to report those people to actually the proper authorities, so that way that person could get help or be pulled off or be protected. So Backpage was actually working with feds in order to help stop trafficking. Now, challenge is the problem is people still conflated Backpage with prostitution, sexual services, which it is. But the thing is, like, what they would end up doing is things like, all right, so we can't get them on child trafficking because they're not doing that. They're still just adults, doing adult stuff consensually. So maybe we could get them on money laundering charges. And how they actually did that is because they cut off all their different payment processors. And this goes back to like what happens if you do cut off your PayPals, your Visas, your MasterCards. Well, you're left with things like Bitcoin, and you're left with things like checks. And what ended up happening is that's how they basically found very shaky charges to say that, well, the company knew that the fees were being paid by adult escorts, but we can't prove that they came from prostitution proceeds, which would definitely count as money laundering, but we can't prove it came from any specific source. But let's just go with that. And because they couldn't pay with people couldn't pay for these ads, and they ultimately made the site actually I want to say ad free, that's how they ended up getting a lot of these charges. It's basically bogus stuff that they wanted to take them down on. Personally, I'm going to be following that one in 2020. And then another example is Seth Meyers' wife, for example, right now.
Sorry, before you go on with that. Before you go on with that, it just kind of the image that comes to mind is like I'm trying to run a business and the feds keep coming in and putting like gasoline canisters and other flammable things all over my business, and I'm trying like crazy to still conduct legit business, but no matter what I do, I'm always at risk of catching my place on fire. And then when the insurance company comes in and says, "Oh well, you clearly did this on purpose. This is your fault. You had all this flammable shit sitting around." That's kind of the analogy that comes to mind when you said that, is what it feels like, that they were just trying to find something, and eventually, if they kept putting enough roadblocks in their way, that something bad was going to happen or something that they were going to be able to catch them on, they'd be able to do that. It's like that's dirty, man. Just that's a lot of effort to try to stop somebody from getting a massage or getting a hand job. Like what? Like seriously.
Or getting domination services.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, you said that like you've done that before. Like that's a thing you've done.
It's like, no.
Duh.
I mean, if you want me to yell at you for a fee, I won't say no.
Yeah, that's a good policy. I like that. I'll yell at people for fees.
Yeah. Non-sexual, totally will do it. Oh, wait, you're going to get sexually derived, but I would have to take any clothes off? I'm fine with that still.
Yeah, just
I
put
have
people
friends who do
down,
that.
berate them, make them feel like less than human, just so they can get their jollies.
I have friends who pay their rent through texting.
Wow, that's incredible.
So before we wrap
I'm in the wrong business.
I know, right?
You had another story before I interrupted there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and so right now, actually, in New York, there's this big push for decriminalization of sex work, and it's actually gotten some steam, which is really awesome, as well as in the DC area. But what you'll see is a lot of, again, religious groups coming together with the super left, because what'll end up happening is, so for example, like Seth Meyers, his wife is a lawyer, and she's on the side of, well, we need to still have some sort of punishment involved. So they're trying to actually issue in a Nordic System. Now, have you guys ever heard of the Nordic System?
I have not.
No.
Please enlighten us.
Yes, do tell.
So the Nordic system, essentially what it does is it decriminalizes sex work. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the concept of what's the difference between decriminalizing and legalizing something? Well, when you legalize something, you have to go out of your way to get a certificate or to register or to have a certain process in place to legalize something. To decriminalize something means anyone can do it. So it's the difference between I want to open a nail salon versus literally anyone can do, anyone's nails and not going to be punished for it.
Well, wouldn't that be an incredible world?
Yeah.
I've got a number of people that cut hair really good and can't do it because they don't have the license to do it. They just want to do it on the side. It's like that's the same kind of thing here.
Essentially. Now, but you're not going to go to jail if you cut someone's hair, versus, there's laws in place to if you want to open up a salon. So, the entire act of actually cutting hair is not going to get you thrown in prison.
Oh, for money.
So that's
for money, though.
Yeah, but at the same time, you could still, for money, cut people's hair. And, unless you're trying to open up a salon, there's more steps in place to do that.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So what essentially is going on is they're trying to come up they're trying to put in a system which is actually worse than it being completely illegal altogether. So let me explain how that works.
Right.
So the Nordic system basically says, well, all right, you can do sex work, but anyone who tries to pay for it at all, those are the people we're going to punish.
Oh, wait a minute. Like it takes two to tango, doesn't it? Like we're gonna. It's like a distinction without a difference, isn't it?
You can have all the booze you want, but you can't pay for it.
Yeah, it has to be given away for free. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's just it doesn't. It seems like they're just trying to make it.
Then I would just get married if I wanted something free.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, no, even then you got to pay for it.
Seems like they're just trying to create the appearance that we're being progressive and we're moving forward in this particular arena, but not really.
No, you're not.
Not really.
And the reason this is actually worse for a lot of sex workers is consider this. Now so people say that, oh, well, if we cut off the demand for sex work, it'll go away, right? No, it doesn't. No. I mean, does that work in any business?
No, it's always been proven if you keep something from the public, they want it even more.
Oh, so yeah. Debauchery at its finest.
Yeah, I mean, that's just that. It may end up helping the cause more than probably hurt it. If you think about it. So I don't know. That's interesting. I hadn't heard about that.
Well, it may not help the cause, but it'll certainly help the industry. Some ways.
Yeah,
I know what you
help
meant.
the industry.
Well, it'll help it as well as far as awareness is, but it's actually proven to be super unpopular because what ends up happening is, well, the sex worker now has to, first off, be more competitive with their rates, generally do more riskier services, and they actually have to now focus more on the anonymity of the client. So think of it this way. If I'm someone who's maybe a sex worker and I normally don't pick up calls from numbers I don't recognize or that are blocked to take a job. Now I might actually have to take that job. And what if the guy abuses me? Well, I can't go identify him later. That's number one. If say you're a client and you see someone who might look suspiciously underage, well, you can't report it now because then you'd be admitting to a crime. And on top of that, that means that as a sex worker, you have to go now to riskier areas, maybe let's say a forest, to conduct business, which are way more unsafe, and you're putting yourself in into danger more, and you have to make more snap decisions when negotiating. Is the guy nervous or is he dangerous? Well, do you have time to figure that out? Chances are probably not if you're doing this for work.
Yeah, you still got bills to pay. Good Lord. I don't know, man. Every time I look at these things, it's like I'm looking for a victim here. If I can't find a victim, I've just automatically said, you know what? Get rid of the regulation, get rid of the laws, just let people do what people do and we'll be fine. Like, people have figured it out forever. And like you said, things are just going to get even more risky and people are going to do what they're going to do. The market doesn't suddenly evaporate and disappear. It's just the types of people that are going to participate, the types of people that are going to be willing to take the risk are going to become, and then all of a sudden 10 years down the road, you've got an even worse problem, and you're like, oh, there's just all this sex trafficking going on and all these terrible things going on in the porn industry and like adult film industry or what, not film industry.
Well,
but
and essentially it'll
it's
put a black eye on the market.
Yeah, it's like, again, it's like just putting roadblocks in the way, making things even worse by trying to make things quote unquote better. And then now you can get people on your side who normally would have thought, oh, that's cool. Now they're going, oh God, that is bad. That's terrible. Look what
Right? And this is a problem we keep seeing time and time again. And this is why you see people on the left and right working together on these anti-trafficking bills and these morality bills, where if you actually look at it and you're actually, I always tell people, try following some, sex workers and their Twitter pages, because somehow Twitter has not like gotten rid of the sex work community, which is kind of amazing. You could see so much porn on Twitter. Right. It's great.
If you're looking for it, you can find it.
Now,
but you will learn so much and how much they're trying to do and how no one's listening to them.
Just let's look at the silver lining, though. I'm very happy that the left and the right finally found a bipartisan issue that they can agree on. Like, come on, you got to give it to them. That's
well, aside from murdering Jeffrey Epstein.
Yep. That's not even a partisan nothing. That's just like, oh, come on.
Everybody believes that he didn't kill himself.